This is the meeting of the regular meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, November 14th, 2022. And we're going to call the roll, please.
Director Roberson.
Here.
Director Anderson.
Here.
Director Malik.
Here.
Director Riley.
Here.
Director Edwards.
Here.
Vice Chair Adams.
Here.
Chair Paul.
Here.
All directors are present.
Very good. Are there any additions or corrections to the regular agenda?
There are not.
Okay, thank you. Let us take a moment to do our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this is the time in our agenda. We're going to open it up for public comment on the items that are on the consent agenda, or not on the specific items later on in the agenda. Maria, would you see if there are members of the public who wish to speak at this point?
Yes, so good evening. Anyone wishing to address, let me start over. Good evening, everyone. Anyone wishing to address the board on consent calendar, information items, closed session items, or matters not listed on the agenda may only do so during oral communications. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes in length. You would need to signal to me by raising your hand on the Zoom application, or if you're calling in this evening, push *9. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
I see one member of the public, looks like, wants to speak.
Yes, that's correct. And Alan, when you're ready, please present your comment.
Hello, my name is Alan Lehman, and are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to speak in regards to Rule 24-A-1-3, which is in regards to the second bath protocol and the restriction against using the second bath protocol credits towards a second unit on the property. I feel like this is an unfair restriction against the creation of ADUs, which has been strongly advocated by the state to do whatever we can to push ahead creation of ADUs and more housing stock. So I'm hopeful that the board can consider a change to that rule to open up the ability to move those credits across to an ADU on the same property. Being that we already have the ability to move existing water credits to an adjacent lot to create a brand new house, it doesn't make sense to me that we cannot also use those credits on site to create an ADU on the property in order to create more housing here in California. Thank you.
Thank you for raising this issue. I will certainly consider what you're saying, and I think that maybe some staff person from the district will reach out to you to talk with you about this. So thank you, Alan.
And Chair Paul, I see no raised hands, so I'll return this back to the board.
Okay, thank you. So, does anyone, do any directors want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, you have oral communications. Oh, I'm sorry, you completed that.
It's okay, Mr. Laredo. It's okay.
Sometimes. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair,
Yes.
I like to pull
Yes.
item 4 off of consent.
Okay. All right. Any other items? Okay, does any member of the public wish to pull any of these items off the consent agenda? Consent calendar?
Chair Paul, I see
Okay, I
no
don't
raised
see-
hands.
Okay, so we'll pull 4. Is there a motion to adopt 1 through 3, 5 and 6, and 7?
I move to
I'll
adopt.
second it.
Thank you. Good. Roll call vote, please.
And the second was by Roberson, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right.
Yes, yes.
Director Edwards,
Yes.
Director Riley,
Aye.
Director Malik,
Yes.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Roberson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Adams,
I.
Chair Paul,
Yes.
the motion is adopted.
Okay, now we'll consider item 4.
Chair, I asked that to be pulled because I looked at the consent calendar. I didn't see that price, the cost of estimates. And I know it's $79,339.05. You know, over $500,000. And I think the public deserve explanation and what's that project for? So if staff is available, please give it.
Yeah,
Try to get it by me.
so, yeah, we did. And we had a betting pool. Would this get by Director Edwards or not? So, so I'm going to let Thomas Christensen introduce this, but we also have Larry Hampson online. And I can tell you that we did meet today with the federal and state fish regulators and the Carmel River Steelhead Association. So we are doing our due diligence at interacting with the folks who have an interest in this project. Thomas, are you available to kind of set the table here and then turn it over to Larry for specifics?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Christensen. I'm with the Water District in the Environmental Resources Division. This item is related to a maintenance project at the Sleepy Hollow Steelhead Rearing Facility, which was constructed in 1996. The facility has several major components. One of them is the intake system, which has recently been retrofitted and is, pretty much a brand new state-of-the-art facility. The rearing channel where the fish, which are steelhead, a threatened species that the Water District rescues during the summertime when the river dries up, are taken to this rearing channel to rear for the summer months, and then released when the river starts flowing again in the wintertime. So this rearing channel has a liner for about 800 feet of channel, and this liner is confined by concrete walls, but the base of the channel is on soil, and the liner has undergone repairs for many years, and it's reached the end of its life. So this project involves replacement of the liner, which is a hypalong liner. It also involves placing concrete at the base of the rearing channel to help support the new liner in the future. It also involves replacement of a undersized drain that runs underneath the existing liner today. It also involves replacement of PVC pipe that has been impacted by the sun over the last 25 plus years, that has micro cracks and has deteriorated over time. The district engineer, Larry Hampson, has been the project manager for the intake system repair, which is now running, and as we speak, the steelhead are in the facility as we speak. And based on assessments of the district engineer and other staff members, we feel that it's time to replace this liner because it has leaked in recent years, and we're concerned that the leaking of the liner could undermine the concrete walls and cause soil erosion to move away from the support structure of these walls. And we feel that it would not be in the best interest of the program that is designed to rescue and rear steelhead as part of the mitigation program to have a structural or catastrophic failure of the rearing channel. You know, so that kind of, this project will then, if voted for and completed this year, would basically bring the facility up to date to basically a fully maintained and restored / updated facility if you take all the components, including the intake.
Thank you. It is a lot of money, so I appreciate that Director Edwards wanted the public to know what it's being used for. Any comments, other comments?
No comments from me. I heard it all at
Okay.
admin, but we got.
But now the
what I
public
wanted
has
to-
heard it.
Yeah, now the public has heard it.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Is there a motion to,
I move
motion on this
approval.
item?
A second?
Thank you. Any
Quickly,
discussion?
Yeah, quickly on the second, Larry Hampton, thank you for all the work you done for the district. I appreciate it.
All right, if you can hear me, thank you.
I can hear you good.
Yeah, we can hear you, and we all appreciate
Yeah.
all the work you've been doing all of these many years.
And I do just want to make one small correction and recognize Maureen Hamilton as the district engineer. I'm just the project manager now.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Maureen.
And to put
Yeah.
this into context, if this new liner lasts 25 years, and we currently have 10,000 fish in there, it comes out to about $3 per fish per year.
Good to know. All right, well, it's they're a threatened species. I'm trying to save them. All right, can we let's do a roll call vote now, please.
All right, Director Riley,
Aye.
Director Edwards,
Aye.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Malik,
Yes.
Director Roberson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Adams,
Aye.
Chair Paul.
Yes,
The motion is adopted.
very good. And now we have come to a time in the meeting where we have to acknowledge that two of our directors, their terms are coming to an end. And we're going to lose them. And we want to thank them. Dave?
Yes, I want to first introduce Director Malik, who probably didn't want this position, but was drafted hard and really answered the request. He's been a terrific director with strong interest, solid opinions, and really has provided some very good influence and transition. Recall that Molly Evans was elected without opposition, and so then she got a job offer across the country, and so we had to scramble to fill the first half of her term. Incoming director Mark Eisenhart will finish out that term, also unopposed. But Director Malik, as I said, has known the water district for decades in his professional capacity, and he brought great strength to the team in his commitment as a director. So thank you, Director Malik. We've got a lovely parting gift, but before we do, we'll go to the mayor. The mayor was simply a new voice and a breath of fresh air, representing voices that we hadn't heard in quite a while. And I think he's pointed out his desire to see the mayoral position rotate will hopefully provide some of that newer insight and energy from different jurisdictions than what we previously received. So from that end, what a great foundational change, hopefully, that goes on through the Mayor's Select Committee. And then I believe we heard Gracie earlier. So
yeah, sure did.
so once you finally recognize a dog's voice, it's become part of the family. So we've enjoyed this time, and I guess the mayor is getting out just a couple of months ahead of in-person meetings. Hello, Gracie. But we, we drafted the mayor here a little bit before the select committee did, in that there used to be a mayor's authority that was very into water issues, and the city of Monterey was a huge contributor to that organization, both in terms of logistics and ideas and leadership. So thank you, Mayor, for having good cheer and good ideas and a strong interest in even some of the most mundane things we put in front of you. We could always count on you to have a great insight. So to both outgoing directors, that's about all I can say, because I know we're going to hear it 5 more times from in different voices from your colleagues on the board. So thank you for your influence.
Thank you.
I'm gonna jump in. First, Director Malik, I've appreciated having both of you on this board so much for so many reasons. And Director Malik, I know that when you agreed to serve, there was a personal sacrifice involved to doing that. I know it wasn't easy, and but you have served, and I'm so glad you have been here on the board these 2 years. And I appreciate that you are a very conscientious steward of the public's money. You always, when we're spending money, always want to check and make absolutely sure that it's well spent. And that's part of the board's job. And I know we can always count on you to do that and to ask good questions. And I'm just very grateful. And Director Roberson, you make us all laugh. You bring your wonderful sense of humor, and you have been very patient with novice at running meetings under the Brown Act, and help me guide me here and there, and when I forget things. And you've been helpful in so many ways, in a very quiet way, and you know the community and the people so well. So that's been very, very valuable. And thank you for the good advice you're giving to the mayor's group as they decide who to send to this board next. I'm going to stop there because I know everyone else wants to speak. Who's first?
I'll go.
Mary, Amy, please.
I probably will speak a little shorter because we're saying the same things, but I too have really enjoyed getting to know both of you. Clyde, I've known you for many, many, many years, and not really known you except to say hi. So it's been fun to have somebody else that likes a little laugh now and then. And because you've had such a long history here, you know a lot about the community, and I have appreciated that very much. Your thoughtful consideration of the issues. Safwat, I've had a good time getting to know you, and always listen carefully when you have a comment to make, because you really give it some serious consideration. So I thank you for that, and I'm very glad that you were here.
Thank you.
Director, Supervisor Adams, Vice Chair Adams.
Thank you. And I'll start with Safwat as well. I very much appreciate this personal sacrifice that you made to take on this task, and you've done it with such a good-natured approach. I remember when you first started, you had such significant issues with sciatica, if I'm not mistaken. And I had such empathy for you, having had something much more minor, but still in the same vein. And I thought that once again, you handled it with dignity and grace, and as you do most things in your life. So thank you for your time with us on the board. It's been enjoyable, and I wish you well in whatever you take on in the future. And Mr. Mayor, I've known you for so long. In fact, I knew your wife before she was even your wife. Back in the days of the League of Women Voters in the 70s, we were pals.
Wow.
And yes, a long time ago.
She was somebody else's wife at that time.
I wasn't going to say anything about that whatsoever. We're just girls. What can I say? We were girls. But Clyde, it's always been enjoyable interacting with you on so many levels. I have enjoyed the time that we have shared, both as supervisor and as mayor, to, sit and have breakfast and just really talk over the issues of the day. I have missed that because of COVID and so many other things. But you bring so much just charm to the group. You really do. I would just simply share everything that Amy and Karen have said, and just will add just the personal thought that when you say something, you have such a broad perspective, and you're speaking with the best. With your goal is to say the things that are the best for everybody concerned. And it's a really wonderful, magnanimous approach that you have to this work, to your being mayor, and I think to your life in general. So I thank you so much. I learn a lot from you, and I'm going to miss you. So we'll have to make sure we correct that.
Yes, for sure, Mary. Breakfast on me.
Has our place opened up again yet, or no?
No, you could put it on your 700 form.
Well, Sasquatch Director, I want to appreciate all the hard work you have done on the board. I really like you. When you got something to say, you say it. You helped us with public outreach, and I like your approach to it. And we finally got there. We hired somebody good, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you because at first I thought you wouldn't make the meeting or chip in with your back and everything, but you did. And you made every meeting and every committee meeting. And I appreciate all your effort, and I'm going to miss you. Mayor, it was good to have you on this board to take over. I can remember 3 mayors on this board. Mayor Pengraff, which had about 20 years on there.
Yep.
And then I think Mayor Potter came, but he was a supervisor on the board too, but he came back as the mayor rep. And you, and I appreciate you got all that back history that the district went through when I was here from 97 to 2010. I'm really going to miss you. You kept the meetings going, and you really helped out a lot. So I'm going to miss you, but still stay by so you can come on, say anything you want to say on public comment up to a certain point. But please don't leave us
completely
out there. We know we know you're going to be on the peninsula. Just stay involved. That's why I tried to get to.
All right, Alvin. You got it, friend. You got it.
George.
Thanks. Safwat, I've known you for a number of years. Invariably, it's kind of somehow related to water one way or another. I was glad that you put your name in. Maybe you were lobbied heavily, but it doesn't matter. You put your name in to be considered for this short term. I respect your ability, your determination to fight through the sciatica stuff. I've had sciatica myself, and I know that's a crappy situation. But I just remember those times, and I just thought, why don't you just take a break and just avoid the meeting? We still have a quorum, but you didn't. You just kept coming through and coming through and coming through, and I just think that was real determination. I appreciate it very much. Also, just like Karen said, you picked the financial issues when you did. you picked a point that need to be made. And I just wished I'd thought of that, but I didn't, but you did. And I just appreciate that kind of determination, but also your orientation to the approach you take to what we do here. And you've been a real clarifier, I think, for a number of issues during your short term. Clyde, you went through, whoever it was, I think Alvin went through the mayors that have gone through here, and all the mayors were before were, done that before, done that, but they kept coming back. And I was just so pleased when finally there was a breakthrough where mayors, there's a lot going on in water, and everybody says that, and the whole community says that, and every kind of influencer says that. Mm-hmm. But where have the mayors been? They just let an existing mayor kind of take over all that kind of thing. I just think you've been a breath of fresh air. You've been a breath of new thinking, new kind of raising questions and so on. But what I respect more from you than I think, maybe I call it institutional memory. You have an institutional memory about the community, about the peninsula, about your city. And I just loved it when you would bring your own experience about things, what your relationship of you with the city manager, or things that you felt the city was doing in a certain way that the district maybe would benefit if we would kind of create some new things. You brought new thinking to the board that I just so much respect, because it comes from your experience, a different experience than what we have on our board, but you found the parallels. Or you find the places where we ought to think a little differently. And I just appreciate that so much. And I'll miss Gracie too.
I'll sign up Gracie as a participant and leave the room.
We'll miss both of you very, very, very much.
Thanks, George.
I have to say one more thing, which is just I'm appreciating so much how this board, you said to the mayors, it's a really good board. This board is a really good board to be on. And it's really true. This board, it works together so well. Each of us values each and every other member, I feel. Each of us brings different experience, different perspective. We all respect one another. We listen to one another. And that is each and every director brings that, and you have been part of that, and I'm really, really thankful to you for that.
Thank you.
And you have I gave you, and Joelle, isn't there a plaque that our directors are going to be given?
Yep, Joelle is going to share a little bit there.
It's a tangible.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Photograph.
Pretty.
That's beautiful.
It's
Thank
gorgeous.
Thank you. This is quite an honor. And I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, staff, for doing this. This looks beautiful, and at least you'll have something tangible to look at to remind you of your work for 2 years on this board.
Very nice.
And don't forget, you have tangible impact on the environment and on the community. These are things that you can see and touch. It's like the day director, Edwards, came out to look at the backflush pit at Pure Water Monterey. You can stick your hand in it. We do save fish. We do restore habitat. These are real things, and you guys put your fingerprints on all of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Software, did you want to make? I was going to share some thoughts. Did you want to go ahead first, Software?
Yes, I will be very brief as always.
Yes.
First of all, it was quite an honor to be selected. I remember there were other candidates that were probably more qualified than I have been. So I certainly appreciate you selecting me unanimously, as I believe it was the case. Sciatica or no sciatica, when I take on something, I'd be very serious about it, and I put all my heart in it. I don't speak much, I don't talk much, but I choose my points where I want to make a difference. And this is such a unique board. The coherence, the transformation of this board from years past is just incredible, almost miraculous. And I am so happy to be part of it because I'm not a person for conflicts. I like to work with people of like-minded and be able to give and take within the confines of respect and camaraderie. And this is such an incredible board. I am so humbled and so honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
No, very nice. Yeah, my comment, when George gets back, I want to know what George was eating for dinner, if he's sharing it with us.
A giant trough of ice cream to me. I don't know.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yes, as one day one of my granddaughters said to me, what are your mayor benefits? And so there's a question for all of you. What are your director benefits? What are your supervisor benefits? It was an interesting question, and I eventually came up with the idea of all the people I've met and worked with over the years. It all came down to the people. And then when I came back as mayor, my granddaughter said to me, are you going to still have time for us? Well, that was a good question. So with 5 grandchildren between us, 2 seniors in high school, 3 in college, my question is, will they have time for me? Because they have such busy lives. But it really has been teamwork. I was first elected to the city council in 1981, so we're looking at 41 years. And always my wife Dottie was at my side. She's attending our meeting right now, and my family, they've experienced it too. And I've met so many people, the public, who participate in our meetings, and nonprofits, lots of volunteers, commissioners. And every time I interview people with respect to our district, our area, whether they've lived here forever or if they're new, without fail, they say they want to give back and they want to preserve this beautiful place that we live in. I've met elected officials. Secretary Leon Pineda was our congressman when I was elected the first time in '81. And that's kind of fun for an elementary school teacher to know the Secretary of Defense. Kind of special. And I've worked with just so many people, wonderful staff, City of Monterey staff, and this staff too, just an excellent staff. And this board, I've seen it over the years where every 2 or 4 years there'd be an election and the so-called pro-growth would win a majority on the water district. And then the so-called anti-growth. Back and forth, it became a political football. As you remember, there was a measure that even passed to dissolve the water management district. Yeah, went up to Sacramento, and here's the way to kill things. It went to committee, and you never saw it again. And
That's
I would
right.
say, because of you folks, this current board, I think you've established credibility to the board. You've been very polite. I really enjoy it when there's not a unanimous vote. That's always healthy. I also enjoy the public when they call in and they say, you know what, I don't agree with this. I think we need a desal plant, or I think you need to do this and that. Always polite, but I really appreciate all of the input from everyone. So for your intelligence and absolute passion, I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will arrange for your lovely parting gifts to get sent to you or picked up somehow. So Joel will be in touch.
If you want to include a chew toy, Gracie would appreciate it.
Hint, hint. Okay.
Yeah, make sure it squeaks.
And we know what to give her for Christmas. Okay. All right, thank you. We'll move on then to the remainder of the work for our meeting. And next thing is our general manager's report.
Yes, and I think this evening I'm going to rely on Joelle to put it up. If you are ready, there we go. And we'll go to the first slide. And the key takeaway from all of this is back one.
Okay.
Is simply that there we go. Yep. Is that we're 1 month into a new water year. So everything we're reporting is 1/12 of what we really need to know for the year. So I'm not going to dwell on it too heavily, other than to say we did a budget, which is the target line here, and we've got actual, which is below the target line, which is always a positive, but not very meaningful after 1 month. Next slide, please. There is something meaningful in this slide. That's that Sand City decel actually produced relatively effectively. And we think that has a little bit to do with the September rains. Remember we had that one weekend, and that probably made the intake salinity level more accommodating to the waste discharge requirements at the output. And pure water Monterey recovery kind of tells you a funky tale here, because more was taken out in that month than was put in the ground, and more was taken out than the target. But that's only because on a month-to-month basis, Cal-Am now does a little bit of carryover, and it's not always a one-to-one. It's leaving the water for a few weeks or a few months to when it might best be needed. Next slide. This again is customer demand, or how much water has to go into the system to serve customer demand. And the only takeaway is that this October was lower than last October. I don't see that that's sustainable for every year, but even this past water year, ending September 30th, was below the prior water year. But you may recall the chart that I've showed. Last 7 years have been relatively flat. Next slide, please. This is rainfall. We got nothing in October, but if you go to the next slide, here is, excuse me, November to date. And the blue is daily rainfall, but it's right on top of, as you can see, the red line, which is cumulative rainfall. But this little red notch is just over 2 inches to date in November. So even if we get no more rainfall in the month of November, and there is some in the forecast, but even if we get no more, our water year currently is simply normal. We are not, not yet declaring that it's a dry year or a drought. And that's how easily just one big weekend of rain or a couple of days of rain, I guess it was really more like a Monday, Tuesday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we'll be watching rainfall totals very closely, but this is where everyone says, oh, we're in a third year of drought. We're not on the Monterey Peninsula. We finished our second dry year, actually finished with quite a bit of water in storage, and we're seeing the beginnings of a normal year. So the verdict is still out. Next slide will be stream flow, and nothing to report there because, as I mentioned, October had very little rain and also very little stream flow. We're still seeing many reaches dried up, but that recent rain was a big help to the river. And I think that concludes the report. I do want to touch on item 9, update on water supply projects. We'll pick up a little bit of item 10, but I think we want to have some discussion on item 10. But on Thursday, the Public Utilities Commission continues to have on its consent calendar the approval of the amended and restated water purchase agreement for Pure Water Monterey expansion. However, for the benefit of the public, there's still some negotiation going on about recovery of interest costs during construction. And those discussions will continue tomorrow and may result in the item being left on the consent calendar. Or by Thursday, we may be informed that a hold has been put on to carry it over to a following business meeting. There's no intention of the public agencies to sign the water purchase agreement without a signature from CalAm at the same time. And we will not issue bid documents to the street until we have that approval. So everything is kind of waiting on that final approval and signatures. With respect to the desalination facility, there is a hearing at the California Coastal Commission in the supervisor's chambers at the county in Salinas, beginning bright and early tomorrow morning. Thursday morning. And there will be many opportunities for members of the public to speak and express their opinion. There is a speaker form that can be filled out 24 hours ahead, available through the Coastal Commission's website for that agenda item on that particular day. That concludes item 8. And item 9. And item 10 is any discussion that you would like to hear on the California Coastal Commission hearing on Thursday. I should inform the board and members of the public that the district on Friday submitted a lengthy final comment letter on the project, expressing our concern that insufficient supply and demand data was presented to the commissioners. There was a nationally recognized expert witness who submitted testimony in the PUC proceeding that was made available to Coastal Commission staff, and the district's own adopted supply and demand forecast, as well as our testimony at the CPUC, were also made available to the Coastal Commission staff, none of which found its way into the staff report, and both of which would in fact clear the runway for the commission to determine that there is an alternative project with less environmental harm, in fact with no impact to the coastal zone in the Pure Water Monterey expansion project. And so we felt that that lack of data creates uncertainty and improperly preempts the commission from meeting their standards of the Coastal Act and the Public Resources Code, which would allow them to deny a permit based on alternatives. So that did go in on Friday, and I believe it was posted to an updated correspondence on the commission's website today. Any discussion that you directors would like to have on the Coastal Commission hearing, or anything you'd like to urge the public on?
Director Riley?
Through the chair, you were originally scheduled for 4 minutes. You've got more. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. So public water agencies, we were originally told we would get about 10 minutes when the special conditions came out last week. I believe it was Thursday. It became 4 minutes, which is part of the reason we scrambled to get a comment letter drafted on Friday to express some of the same thoughts. And then this morning, that was extended back to 8 minutes, which I think will be workable, at least to get a couple of main points across for this district. I can tell you that there's also separate space for elected officials, but by definition, our elected directors don't qualify as elected officials, so we weren't able to split and qualify under 2 separate categories.
Director Anderson.
I just want to congratulate you, Dave, on the really great job you did on that letter to Ainsworth. It was excellent. You kind of boiled it down in a very direct way. Didn't get stuck in the weeds, and I think you did a really, really good job. And if they don't listen to it, that will be a crime.
Thank you. There's a high chance of not listening to it though. So,
well, I mean, the challenge is there's a huge volume of material for the coastal commissioners to read and digest. The staff report with appendices is what, over 200 pages, and it's an enormous amount of information. And then there's corresponding letters such as ours, and I think this was it the second or third? I mean, we've sent several letters explaining the supply and demand, the permits that are still to be necessary for the desal project to go forward, and other issues. But I mean, there's so much to read that I think it's just humanly very difficult for the coastal commissioners to read and absorb and remember all of it. We have had a couple of meetings with ex parte meetings with a couple of commissioners, and I could see that even though, I mean, the staff covered a lot of ground, but it's a lot for the commissioners to absorb. And there's the amount of correspondence, letters, emails, and so on is enormous. So I think they probably can't possibly read all of it.
Yeah.
So it's challenging.
And just so the board knows, we did follow up some of our ex parte meeting requests with a distribution of key talking points today. So it's a small sample size, but it's in the hands of 4 commissioners, either who requested it or did host us for a ex parte meeting.
So at least you talked to them and basically told us how they feel or whatever. But all that information that we have sent to them and denials and everything that we have sent to them, and I think that last one on November 11th is some more add to the findings. Why don't you just get up there and say deny the project? We sent letters in on that. I don't know if they've got covered, but I think everything we undone, and they're not listening to us. We might as well say deny. I know y'all like to be diplomatic if y'all can, but I think this one is built in that they're going to approve a desal and then hope that Cal-Am decide to do pure water Monterey expansion. It doesn't look too good. So we just got to hope for the best. But I want to thank you and Mr. Laredo for all your work that y'all have done and the staff on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, Dave, I want to thank you and whoever else you had to rely upon, Laredo and maybe more, to produce these tight written letters that just focused on the key issues. I just want to remind us, but I also want to remind myself that I think the staff is different from the commission itself. And we got to remember that. And I feel like there's been some sinister angle that the staff has pursued that is almost unrepentive. There is no justification for the way they did that. And I have 2 examples here. One is that what you just said earlier, Dave, about not including 2 contrary reports about the adequacy of pure water Monterey and the demand of the numbers going into the future. Mayor and your report, they've excluded that. They had to do that intentionally. The other question I have is whether the initial allocation of time to the water agencies, 3 water agencies that have absolutely invested an enormous amount of their own priorities and resources to deal with this issue. And they were skimmed down to 4 minutes each when Cal-Am was getting 30 minutes. And thank goodness you're up to 8 or so. But I just feel like there's some sinister effort from the staff angle that is I don't know, diminishing to their own quality of previous work. I just think they've diminished themselves in that process as much as they're trying to restrict our access to getting data before the commission.
So I think it would be helpful for the, I mean, Director Edwards sort of teed off what he thinks we as a board should say to the commission at the hearing on Thursday. May I agree? Even though we have put in evidence, very strong evidence, and written letters that are important that hopefully they'll read, that we should, you know, we need to speak. And I think we should be very clear that we oppose, that this board opposes this project. And I think that the fact that it's not needed because with the expansion of Pure Water Monterey, you know, will provide enough water for a good long time. That's an important reason. And I think we are the best agency to remind them of that evidence because of our expertise and supply and demand. So I think it's important to say that there are other important issues, but remember there are a lot of other agencies and individuals and organizations that are going to address different aspects. So I've been thinking a lot about which are the most important ones for us to address in our 8 minutes. And I know Dave's been thinking a lot about that too. So this is a good time if directors have and want to say something more about what you want our district to tell the Coastal Commission on Thursday. Coastal Commission and the public. Anything to add?
Well, go ahead, Amy. Sorry.
Go ahead, George.
I'm thinking that we ought to be free, if we're going to comment at all, to say that we oppose this project. I don't know, Dave. I don't know if there's some subtle twist on this logic, that if there's logic here, about how this might come across. I think we have shown that our preferred project, obviously, is a pure water expansion. I think we have shown with our investment and with our history that there are less environmentally damaging projects available, which is, you know, Monterey 1. We have committed ourselves to trying to provide a water supply that works for everybody. And that just the fact that there's some opposition to some of that is kind of expected, but also I would like to be able to say, and I hope to speak as an individual, by the way, at the Coastal Commission. But I would like to be free to say that our district prefers the alternative. Therefore, we oppose the existing desal proposal. Simple as that. And I don't know how to get there unless there are others that believe that something similar, or there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know what's wrong with it, but that's kind of my question. What's wrong with being able to say that?
Madam Chair, if I could just respond to Mr. Riley. I think we need to be very focused as to the fact that this is an application before the Coastal Commission. And I believe that what is being expressed is opposition to approval of the application at this time. And I'm saying that because we have to be mindful that if CalAm is to proceed, if it does get approval by the commission, eventually there will be an application that needs to come to your board. And you will have to consider that application on the merits of whatever is presented to you at that time. We don't know what that we don't know if it will be or when it will be and what it will be. So I believe that before you is the question, are you opposed to the commission's approving CalAm's application at this time? And I believe that you have the ability to say you are opposed to the commission approving the application. But when we say approving the project, I'm not sure what project we're talking about. We don't know what project CalAm is going to be submitting to your district. CalAm request for approval differs from the project that it proposed to the Public Utilities Commission. So we have to be, I think, laser focused as to what, if you are opposed, what your opposition is to. And what I've heard is you are opposed to the commission approving the application before it at this time.
That's exactly right. And thank you for focusing us on that nuance.
Yes, and I believe all that now. I understand why all that letter writing that the GM been doing, is out for that application. I think you got all the points in there. And if they came up to findings for me, I could use them. But I appreciate all that hard work. And thank you, Mr. Laredo, for explaining it a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, it's helpful. And it reminds me that the project under consideration now by the Coastal Commission is different, as you point out, different from the one that was approved by the Public Utilities Commission, and different from the one that it was proposing to the Coastal Commission earlier. And I hadn't really given it any thought, but it could be yet something else that comes before this district at some point. Yeah, it could be different from anything we've seen so far. So we don't know that. So thank you for reminding us of that.
And
George.
the General Counsel, I just want to thank you for laser focusing that question I asked.
So
Okay.
I want to make sure, Dave Laredo, that you're really suggesting that we kind of leave it at that, not say what the things that we're focused on or that we're.
I believe you may state your concerns, but they need to be stated in the context of the decision that is pending before the Coastal Commission.
Mm-hmm.
What's pending before the Coastal Commission is seeking approval of a very finite project. And if you have questions as to whether that should be approved, that's what should be expressed.
Thank you.
Okay. This is all code for don't give up a future discretionary action today that you can hold on to for tomorrow.
Right. That's what
Well,
I'm asking.
Taking a
about.
position on another way to state that, I guess, is taking a position on what's before the Coastal Commission now is not the same thing as this board making a decision in the future on another application to us. So that could be very different circumstances and facts and circumstances, and of course our authority is completely different. So that's the importance of it, I think, and that's why we can't prejudge the decisions that we may have to make in the future, which makes sense. All right, anything else on the Coastal Commission for right now? All right. Director reports on.
No, Madam Chair.
Trips. Yes.
You have report from District Council, items 11 and 12.
Oh.
I got them numbered, but I still need to have the opportunity to speak. So, Madam Chair, good evening, members of the board, members of the public. The board did meet in closed session at 5 p.m. this evening. There were 3 items on the closed session agenda. 2 items have to do with items of pending litigation. One is the Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association lawsuit against the district concerning the collection of the district water supply charge. The second item was CalAm's application for permission from the Public Utilities Commission to execute the water purchase agreement that Mr. Stolt did characterize. And the final one was the review of the performance evaluation of Mr. Stolt. With respect to the first item, the Taxpayers Association lawsuit, when this was put on the agenda, it was anticipated that there would have been a hearing earlier in November because it was scheduled for November 4th. Judge Panetta, who will be the judge likely that will be hearing the trial in this matter, was not able to hold to the November 4th date due to a scheduling conflict, and that matter has been reset to December 20th at 10 a.m. before Judge Panetta. With respect to CalAm's application for authorization to execute the water purchase agreement, as Mr. Stolt characterized, when this was put on the agenda, we had anticipated that the Public Utilities Commission would have provided authorization or direction on that, but that matter was then continued. At the moment is on the schedule for the commission's meeting on the 17th. At the moment, it's on the consent calendar, and there's a process by the commission that they can hold matters that are on the consent calendar. At the moment, we do not have any information that is going to be on the hold list, but the commission, by its own rules, cannot discuss matters with parties during this period of time. It's known as a blackout period, and we won't know until likely on the 17th as to whether or not the commission will vote it out or if some other process will apply. So at the moment, we don't have any action to report there. And then finally, returning to the question of Mr. Stoltz's evaluation, the board did review the process that it plans to follow and did direct that individual evaluations be returned for processing, and has set a special meeting for Monday, November 28th at 5 p.m. To give the board an opportunity to meet in closed session to finalize that performance evaluation. Madam Chair, that completes my report as to what was discussed in closed session, and embedded within that is the report on the Taxpayers Association, which again will go for hearing on December 20th. That completes my report on items 11 and 12.
Thank you. All right. Directors, any reports on meetings, other meetings outside agencies? Director Edwards, you're muted.
Thank you, Chair. Last month, I attended Monterey One Water Board on source waters. They had one. As a matter of fact, today they have another one. They're probably doing it right now while we're having our meeting. If possible, can the district get a copy of that Zoom meeting that they having tonight? I looked on Monterey One Board, YouTube board, and they got several of our meetings on their panel, on their thing to look at. So for the public, I like to see, can you get that for us so we can look at what they're talking about on source water? I think transparency is very important. I think we do a good job ourselves over here in the district of putting all our committee meetings and our standard board meetings on YouTube. So that's something I might bring up to them myself, because that's transparency right there. And tonight they're having a meeting. I'd like to see a copy of it if we can get it. If we can get it. I know I asked for copies before over there, and somehow we can't get them.
Oh.
But we are public.
Maybe we can provide a link on our website.
Whichever
recording.
I like to see, their meeting. It's a public meeting. They should keep files of it, like we keep files of it. We put our YouTube meeting, all our meetings on YouTube. That's why I look at them and catch up on meetings. But I think if y'all can talk to them and see, can we get it? I like to hear it. My next item is the first week of this month on Thursday, the GM attended Seaside City Council and gave us a little short brief supply and demand report, and I appreciate it. It was good. I don't know what you can do for the Coastal Commission, but but that was good for them that they had. I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Well, I attended a meeting of Just Water in Marina, where Dave Stolk spoke, and the general manager from Marina Coast Water District and Monterey One Water also spoke, provided information about Pure Water Monterey and answered. It was the public library in Marina was full. It was extremely well attended. And I want to thank Dave Stolt for doing a very excellent presentation there for that meeting. And I just felt it was important for the Water Management District, for at least one board member to also show up, and that was appreciated. And Director Riley was also there, and I may have missed some. Yeah.
I just want to add, I attended that meeting too, and I was pleased with the number of people who had made presentations. The turnout was very large, which it wasn't a particular surprise, but it was reassuring to see the big turnout. Water continues to be a significant interest across the communities, and I did attend a CalAm meeting. I can't remember when, but maybe 3 weeks ago. And the turnout there was pretty abysmal by comparison. So I just add that I did attend a CalAm forum.
And they put that meeting in Marina out on tape. So I did look at that. So it was videotaped. So they put that out.
The thing I want to add, if I could, the thing I want to add about the CalAm forum that they had that I attended, they promote the fact that this is a forum for the public to learn things, and then they put the burden on the community to ask the questions. They did not present, CalAm did not present anything. They didn't present, even though the media was already stirring with a 4.8 desal, a reduced project, a phase, splitting it into 2 phases. CalAm knew all that, and they would have answered questions if you had questions about that, but they didn't initiate information to the public. So they had it seems to me, they had no sense of responsibility to be transparent about or even informed. I mean, to try to inform the public about what they were doing. They just were very casual and very laid back and inactive, I think. And it was all required. If you're going to learn anything new, you have to ask the right questions. Otherwise, they weren't sharing much. I just felt I was very disappointed. I thought CalAm had an opportunity to tell more of the public about what they were thinking and where they were going or what they were actually planning. But they didn't do that. I just continue to be kind of surprised about how little transparency there is to CalAm.
Supervisor Adams.
I don't think I reported on this last month, but I did attend the Aqua Conference. I think several of you were there. I went to an event with I think it was the Thursday evening at Chivo, and had an opportunity to interact with some of the members of the Water Resources Agency board, which was really good. And then some of the line workers, the engineers and such, who had come in from around the state to attend this meeting, and then had the opportunity to attend the panel discussions on the Friday, which was really interesting as well.
And you were invited to speak as well.
I was invited to speak as well. I was a pinch hitter. That was great.
And,
thank you.
Yeah, and talked about your initiative, the Regional Water Forum discussions that you've organized. So people know about that. People from other parts of the region about that. Yeah, we talked about it a bit at the last meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't
Yeah.
recall whether we had already announced that or not.
Yeah.
Give me
So-
stepping back in time. Time goes so fast. I can't believe
Yes,
it's
and
already been a month since that happened.
It really does, and our meetings are a month apart, and there a lot happens in a day, in a week. All right, any other
Good to go back to
meetings?
that.
Just one more from me, Chair. Dave, that gentleman that spoke that oral communication about ADA.
Yep.
Can we do anything about that?
Yeah, so it's come up. We've been out speaking to realtors. Actually, we've had 2 presentations to realtors in the last 2 weeks, and it came up. We'll take it to the Water Demand Committee. The issue at hand, though, is the second bathroom protocol is allowing a bathroom to be put in as a convenience, and it doesn't really carry any credit with it. When you, well, if you were to allow, let's say, for example, taking out the second bathroom in a home and putting it into an accessory dwelling unit, well, that's not a convenience bathroom. That's a specific use bathroom for another party or another family.
Madam Chair, I'm going to interrupt here. This is an item that came up under oral communication. It's not on our agenda.
We'll pick it up at the committee.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we're on it. Thank you.
And this is just in via my staff. Apparently, the CPUC has put a hold on the approval of the amended and restated water purchase agreement to their December 1st business meeting. The reason for the hold, further review.
They really want to sock it to us. All right.
Sorry.
Convenient in terms of the Coastal Commission hearing, huh? Timing, convenient.
I knew it was going to happen.
Wow. Have to say we're not surprised. Okay. All right. I think we are ready to move on, I think, to our first action item, which is about chair and vice chair for next year. I'm sure you all read the one-page memo that Jay prepared. So as you know, the normal rotation that the board has adopted, Supervisor Adams, who is vice chair this year, would be chair next year, and the vice chair would be Supervisor Anderson, according to the normal rotation. And that's what I've been expecting. A few weeks ago, Supervisor Adams asked me if I would consider.
Karen,
You want to present it yourself?
Right, and
Yeah, go ahead.
This has been a very challenging subject to discuss because of the limitations that we have of discussing this among ourselves with the Brown Act. And if you don't mind, I would just say that I had, looking at the things that I have on my plate, I was thinking that perhaps it would serve us, and including myself, better if I were to postpone serving as the chair of the board for a year and ask Karen to stay on as chair, and I would remain as vice chair. I did not realize some of the ramifications of that decision, not the least of which is the impact that it would have on other board members who would not have an opportunity to serve as board chair in their regular term, current term that they're on. So with all due respect and apologies to you, Karen, that I've not spoken to you about this because it's just happened like in the last day or two. I think I will rescind my thought and continue with the process that we have in place for, normally, which is, should I be nominated as sitting as the vice chair, should I be nominated as the chair? It is a position that I would accept. But I realize that at this point, I haven't even been nominated, so I don't want to presume that I would ascend the throne from the, lady in waiting position that I now hold. But as I said, I specifically apologize to you, Karen, because I would like to have spoken to you about this personally and did not, was not able to do that. So at any rate, that discussion is kind of now off the table.
Okay, so you no longer want to defer serving as chair for a year. So then, unless someone else has an issue, then as you say, there's no need for discussion. Then we can just follow our normal rotation for next year.
I would think that there might be, I mean, board members have the right to weigh in and say if they prefer not to see that happen, or not. So there you have it.
Yeah. Well, at our next meeting, there'll be nominations and vote and so on, but people may have something to say now about the process. Or yes, Director Anderson, did you want to?
Yes, I think that the process is pretty clear. I did check on a couple of the words in it because I wasn't absolutely sure what that meant in one case, and I did check with Dave Laredo about that, but it seems very clear. And with what Director Adams has just said, I would propose that we follow our usual rotation. That makes sense to do that.
Okay, George.
Yeah, I just want to add that the staff report had a slight typo because they listed the sequence without listing. In one sequence they listed director 2, director me, and the mayoral rep at the same time, kind of
in the same row.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Positions.
It was just a typo. It was a missing line break, I think.
Yeah. So mayor is between 2 and 3.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep,
Yeah.
good catch.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Thank you, George. I was wondering about that.
I'm glad we got it cleared up. Glad we got it cleared up because I believe in keeping the line moving. So thank you.
Well, all right.
Thank you, Director Adams. Thank you.
Yeah, and between your general counsel, myself, and your incoming vice chair, you'll have all the supports you need to be successful, and we'll give you all the help we can to make your life easier. So
thank you.
We'll wait for December on that.
Those two hard to work with.
Okay. All right, we move on to item 15, the cost sharing agreement with Monterey One Water.
Yep, and this one is well timed since I just closed my screen and lost my agenda, but I know this one by memory. We collectively went after federal funding for Pure Water Monterey Base Project. And through the course of, I believe it was ultimately 3 appropriations, we received about $19.6 million for the project. We've always had a little handshake deal with the Monterey One Water folks that the majority of that would go to the project. But we would like to see something come back to the district because of unreimbursed pre-construction costs that were very significant. And we agreed to accept $1.5 million, and we used that in our budget for this year. And this is the vehicle to get that reimbursement from them to us. Their board won't see it until the agenda next week. So it's pre-approval for us, subject to any non-substantive changes that might come from Monterey One Water. I know that the difference in the recitals in the agreement draft that I included and that they're going to include in theirs is they're actually going to attach each of the previous cost sharing agreement amendments. So when it comes for signature, you'll actually probably see those, but those are just, they're not substantive. They're already things that we've signed, that they're just bringing them out. So other than that, absent any major changes that their board does on a week from today, I urge you to approve this, and then we'll have Suresh and Fred over at their group work on getting that money transferred. And I know it's in the staff note, but just for clarity, the then existing amendment number 6 will continue to operate until we get to full funding of the Pure Water Monterey expansion. That was the amendment that had us cost share on pre-construction costs for the expansion. This amendment 7 is actually reaching a little further back, but it'll be closed as a final payment under this reimbursement. So anyway, it's good for us, and it's another piece of recognition that we did on behalf of the users, the end users, did everything we could to reduce their cost of capital by getting this federal grant.
Mhm.
Well done.
Well done.
And I see only they're very, very grateful for all the work you did, and very good that you succeeded in getting this money. And I see every reason to approve this. We'll take it out for public comment, see if any member of the public wants to comment on this item before I entertain a motion.
Yes, so if you would like to make public comment on item number 15, please raise your hand. And Chair Paul, I see no raised hands.
Okay.
Chair Paul, just to clarify for me, this is 1.5 that we are getting from Monterey 1. Is 1.5 that we put in our budget, but have we spent that 1.5 during the year in our budget? So at mid-year review, you're gonna say, well, we spent it. Clear that up for me, because we going into mid-year, I'm gonna wonder what happened to it.
Yeah, and Suresh is on, but we budgeted it so that we would be less likely to tap general reserves. But Suresh, do you remember where it's going?
Yeah, sort of. So just to remind the board, you approved a project tonight, for example, the $700,000 project for the Sleepy Hollow project. So it's helping fund for those. If it wasn't for the 1.5, then as Dave was saying, all the money for the projects would be coming from the reserve fund. But because we needed to balance the budget, the 1.5 did help us, where we basically did not take out the 1.5 from reserve and using the revenue proceeds.
And,
Okay.
and you may recall seeing a chart or a table at a previous meeting where I showed how water supply has been funded really over the last 10 or 11 years. And it showed a net hit to the user fee through other reserves of the district. So you can almost think of this a little bit like replenishing reserves that were borrowed upon to pay for Pure Water Monterey. And then it was those reserves that then get tapped for some alternate project like the Sleepy Hollow and others, so that we're not using, water supply designated funds for something specific that is not water supply. We're replenishing those reimbursements. We were, 12 million into Pure Water Monterey, cash out of pocket. So we're in effect replenishing some of that or reimbursing some of that, but then it restores our reserves to their health, and then we get to spend it elsewhere.
Okay, that clears up. Just make sure during mid-year review, we clear it up even more, because I know we spent 34,000 on something else, and all during the year we've been taking money out, and I believe this 1.5 should clear all that up, where y'all not saying we need to take more out of reserves or something else to do these other projects that we're coming up with. So thank you.
All right.
I guess we'll have a chance to review all of that in all of that in one place at the mid-year review. Okay, is there a motion to approve Amendment 7?
I move to approve.
Second.
Second? Who seconded?
Safwat.
What? Okay. Any comments or questions? Then let's have a roll call vote, please.
Director Riley,
Aye.
Director Edwards,
Aye.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Malik.
Yep.
Director Roberson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Adams,
Aye.
Chair Paul.
Yes,
The motion is adopted.
thank you. On to item 16.
And
Yes,
Chair-
item 16 will be introduced and discussed by our reporter on the street who broke the news on the Public Utilities Commission hold just minutes ago, Maureen Hamilton.
I have to give thanks to Paul Shudo for bringing it up next door during the board meeting they were having. It's been double tasking a little bit tonight. This request is for the district to be able to perform CEQA work for the Los Padres Dam outlet modification and to approve a reimbursement agreement to be reimbursed for that staff time in an amount not to exceed $35,000. The Los Padres Dam has a low-level regulating outlet. And that low-level regulating outlet is used for a couple of different purposes. One is a fast release of the dam water in event of an emergency or maintenance that has to occur within the dam. And another, probably more important aspect to the outlet is its ability to provide water during the dry season to aquatic resources. That water is discharged to the river. It is also sent to the fish ladder to allow for adult steelhead migration. Rock slides that occurred in the 2018 to 2020 period have largely blocked that outlet with various debris and mud and silt from the slides, excuse me. Cal-Am has sent divers down to try to investigate and clear the blockages. They installed a siphon, which does work, but not at low water levels in the dam. Currently, we're relying on a pump to pump water from the dam to the river and the fish ladder. They've brought out geotechnical experts to investigate the landslide area. And it's expected that landslides are going to continue on that face and that there's really no remediation for that slope that can be put in place. So now we have to figure out how to, or now they have to figure out how to unblock the intake. And the solution really for the long-term health of the dam is to move the intake. They are moving it into a solid foundation area further away from the slide area and outside the risk zone that the geotechnical engineers mapped out for them. The intake will be installed. It's a fascinating process, and Amon Gonzalez is online, and I'll let him have I mean this truly, enjoyment of describing the process and answering any questions if y'all have them. So they're going to install this new intake with floating barges, connect it to the existing outlet, and replace some downstream works. As lead agency, we would have staff do an initial study checklist. Cal-Am will then create the CEQA documents. We'll review them. Cal-Am will then post and give a notice of intent to adopt a mitigated negative declaration, which is what our initial study is leaning towards. And after about 60 days after those comments are received, they'll have responded to the comments and proposed appropriate mitigation steps. So after that 60 days, we'll bring it back to the board to adopt potentially a mitigated negative declaration. Again, I'm requesting that the board authorize a reimbursement agreement with Cal-Am for that work and approve the district to act as lead agency for CEQA for this work. Do you all have any questions?
Yeah, let's hear briefly from Aman what the engineering is. Maureen touched on it just a little bit, but this is the cool stuff, so we like hearing about it.
Yeah, can you
Well,
guys
that
hear
was
me?
cool what we just heard.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Aman Gonzalez. I'm a project manager with CalAm, and I've worked with Maureen and Larry Hampson over the years on various projects. And yeah, that was a very complete description of kind of the problem that we have out there. Multiple landslides have plugged our outlet, and we've tried to clear the debris and are unable to just because of the large, there's boulders, trees, mud, and it's really hard to remove that unless you have large equipment. So that's what we have to do. We have to, basically what we're doing is we're moving the outlet about 150 to 200 feet away from the landslide outside of the geotechnical hazard zone. And we are going to be drilling a foundation into bedrock in that location. And then we will be installing a pipe that runs from the new outlet over to the old outlet and attaching that pipe to the old outlet. And the reason we have to do that is because the pipe that runs through the dam that actually releases water from the reservoir, that has to remain the active pipe, just because otherwise we would have to bore through the dam, which is a very risky activity. So we have to leave the pipe that runs through the dam in place and basically connect to it with our new pipe and our that leads to our new outlet. So we are currently talking to various contractors on means and methods, so we don't have everything totally figured out yet, but we're at a 70% design phase. And we've received comments from the Division of Dam Safety. So they have reviewed the project and they're actively providing us comments on our design. We think we'll be finished with design probably at the end of March of 2023. And if we can get all our permits lined up, we would go to construction either in the fall of 2023, or if we can't get all our permits by that time, just because some of the permits are kind of long lead permits with the state and federal government, then we would proceed with the project in 2024. So that's in a nutshell kind of what the project entails, and be happy to answer any questions.
If I may add something else, is it too late?
No.
And so the Division of Safety of Dams and California Department of Fish and Wildlife make the most sense to be the CEQA lead, but their lead time is just too long for the urgency of this project. So CalAm came to MPWMD and asked if we had the staff to take it on, and given the criticality to the wildlife, and we said we would ask you all.
And we really do want it fixed because it's an important part of releases to keep the wetted front moving for the benefit of habitat and fish in general. So, you know, it fits. It's a good fit.
Yes, Director Riley.
I have two questions to the engineer. Welcome. I haven't seen you before, but welcome. I remember having a site visit at the dam, and when you look from the dam into the reservoir, your intake system is to the right somewhere toward that steep slope that keeps falling into the reservoir. When you said you were going to move the intake 150 or 200 feet, did you say feet or did you say yards? Because feet didn't sound like enough to me.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I'm kind of giving you a ballpark a dimension, but I guess a better way to describe it is where the dam spillway is. We're moving it closer to the dam spillway.
Okay.
So away from that steep side of the reservoir.
Okay, toward the spillway. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know what direction you were going, but I'm sure you weren't going straight to the right, you know, against the slope. My second question, and maybe it's more to Dave than others, or maybe some engineers on the staff. I thought that there was a study of the future of the Los Padres Dam that was due to be out sometime late this year or sometime shortly.
Yep.
It sounds like, regardless of where that report is, it sounds like this improvement, or this necessary improvement, may be a step in the direction of keeping the dam in place and useful rather than tearing it down. Does that do anything about the study itself that's maybe still coming?
No, it doesn't do much about the study. The conclusions will be the same. And Aman's been part of the technical review team on that study as well. It's still kind of due to come out in December. You know, we've seen drafts of the final, but realistically, what will happen will be nothing for a while people, you know, contemplate its findings. And so this is a needed repair. You know, it's a little bit like our Sleepy Hollow discussion earlier. It's broken, it needs to be fixed. Now's the time to fix it. You may take the dam out, you know, then some folks would maybe like to take that dam out in 10 years, and some say you won't get around to it for 40 years. Some may want to leave it in place, some may not, but those decisions are going to be made further down the road. This is a repair that needs to be made today.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Well, thank you, Aman, for coming to our meeting to explain more about the project. Appreciate that. And sounds like something that needs to be done.
Yes, thanks for having me.
We haven't taken this out for public comment yet, have we? Let's do that next. See if there's any member of the public that wants to talk to us about this agenda item.
Yes,
16.
so if you would like to make public comment on this matter, please raise your hand. Chair Paul, I see no raised hands, so I'll return this back to the board.
I move approval of item 16.
I'll second it. I'll
Thank
second.
you.
Adams.
Yep. Okay, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Malik,
Yep.
Director Edwards,
Nope.
Director Riley,
Aye.
Director Roberson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Adams,
Aye.
Chair Paul.
Yes.
The motion is adopted on a vote of 5-2.
Thank you, Aman.
Thank you.
Thank
Good to
you.
meet you. And now, so that was our last action item. We've got one discussion item, which is how we are going to transition to in-person meetings and accommodate, you know, public participation and all of that.
Yeah, and that's really what this comes down to. I think we distributed the DeLay and Laredo memorandum on different rules. It's pretty clear AB 361 is going to go away. AB 2449 is pretty unworkable for a long range policy, I think. So my proposal is we go back to pre-COVID Brown Act rules, except for making our meetings directly accessible via Zoom link. And then the only question I have for you all is, do you want participants via Zoom to have interactive capabilities to make public comment? There's a whole redo that we've been talking about for 3 years of the audio visual setup in the conference room that Joelle is project managing for us. We've got both AMP and Devira working on the equipment purchases and installation. We've resecured our telephone conference calling capabilities. So that also remains an option for a meeting where there's a remote director. But if we make the Zoom interconnection work, then that would also be an option for a remote director. For remote public participation, teleconference really doesn't work well. And so we're going to be working with this mounted camera and either Zoom on a iPad or to a laptop, in the meeting at the time. But as I said, we need to know if you want to try to foster public comment via the Zoom system or not. And I can tell you it's not always perfect. I was with Director Edwards at Seaside City Hall, and for the clerk who knew how the system worked, it was smooth. And for the substitute clerk who was covering for about 15 minutes, it was really cumbersome and awkward to go out to the public via the Zoom link. But, I think that with time, we can probably master it. And then I guess the only other addition for those of you who are kind of in the know, presently, we haven't thought of getting an OWL camera system, which has a little bit more room range and focuses in on the speaker. So our current plan is just the stationary camera. And Joelle, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to kind of the specifications or even the ease of operation, because that's been one of our biggest concerns is the supervisors and some of the other city councils have more bodies. Right now it's Sarah Reyes and Joelle Pablo who are running all these meetings. So if we add in another element where now we've got an in-person meeting to run as well as remote public comment, it might be something that, that I can look for hands that are raised and so forth, and we can kind of make it all work, but it may take a little bit extra, like a third arm or something on a human.
So, David, if the public could not participate through Zoom, how would they participate? Just by phone?
No, the old way. Drive up to Ryan Ranch and hang out at a meeting. We've always had 2 rows of chairs for guests, and then for big meetings, we would pack the lobby. We do have a monitor in the lobby so they can follow the meeting. And then when it's time for public comment, they would enter the meeting room, that's overflowing and do their public comment in person. So that's old school way. So the only way to kind of accessorize that would be this, dedicated room camera, which will also come in handy for those of us that have big meetings, so we don't have to fly everybody in for the, 25-person U.S. Bureau of Reclamation meetings and things like that. We will be able to use the conference room for teleconferencing.
If I can jump in, the city of Monterey has been doing the hybrid meetings here for quite a while. And our city clerk is the one who monitors, just like, the Zoom meetings are these online meetings that we've had. If a participant wants to join in, they simply raise their hand. City clerk acknowledges them. We do have a backup in our assistant city manager. And I have found the system works very, very well. The awkwardness is not the technology. The awkwardness for me running the meeting is when we're ready for public comment, especially if I'm at home, I have to find out who's in the council chambers, and I usually let the people who are present at the council chambers speak first. and then we go to online participation. We've really had zero problems, I would say. We've had no problems with links. And Dave, I would just offer that you can contact our city clerk, Clementine.
So if I may, through the chair, just interject really quick. So I have been working with AMP and also Devera, the district's IT vendor. And what we have decided to do is to upgrade the current AV equipment in the conference room. So if public meetings are to be held on site, the current AV system will not support a hybrid in-person and teleconferencing needs. So what we are proposing is to update the antiquated components, and we are looking towards doing these meetings in a hybrid type format for our board and committee meetings. What that will look like and what technologies will be installed. It's still unknown, but I do hope to have all of this, all of the AV equipment in the conference room up to standards, so that way when we do return to in-person meetings, it'll be running quite smoothly.
Oh, Joel, thanks
So
for the, but I was good, if I can finish my thought, is that the city of Monterey can certainly be helpful, as well as our AMP system, in helping you set this up. We've been doing it for months.
Yeah, and the two differences, the two differences for us are, you mentioned your assistant city manager, so we need a NAT, we need somebody who can back things up, and so just like he does, and that may be something that's easier than we think. The second piece is you've been doing them where not everybody has to attend, not every council member or the mayor has to attend in person.
Right.
Similar to what the county's been doing, that the chamber's not 100%. And where we're headed, obviously, with the lifting of the COVID emergency is the directors will now have a greater obligation to be there in person. And AB 2449 doesn't give you a whole lot of freedom. The pre-COVID Brown Act at least gives you greater freedom that if you're a business traveler and you're gone a lot of meetings, we can accommodate you by you posting it at your hotel and taking the conference call or something like that. AB 2449 doesn't give you as much, so it's pretty obvious you're coming back. You're the leading edge. The public may not want to come back, and they will be advantaged by this system more than you will as our elected leadership. Take it as you may. That's where we're headed.
Got it. Very true.
Yeah. The other thing is timing, and I'd like to hear back from you as well. Do you want to do this as soon as the technology is installed and working and ready to go, or do you want to take advantage of the current situation until March?
So, Dave, if I can again. Kodiak, he did let me know that he could have everything. And of course, this is also we need to talk to Devera, but they're projecting this AV upgrade to be completed the 15th of December, potentially the end of December completion date. So Sarah and I will have to test out the equipment with AMP and Devera to make sure that everything's completely operational. Once it is completely operational, we will be trained by both Devera and AMP, and then we'll also encourage the division managers at the district and then select staff to be trained on how to use the equipment down there. So that way we don't have a situation that both you and Director Edwards were presented with at the Seaside City Council meeting.
Yeah, and that's also one of our solutions for, you know, the mayor's assistant city manager, Nat, where we could just designate one division manager every 4th month or something like that. But it sounds like the earliest we might be ready would be January, where we're still kind of in shakedown mode. The governor's emergency order expires February 28th. So you've got the choice of trying to push it as soon as technology is ready, or just waiting until March. And I don't know what your feelings are. I'd like to just get a general direction.
I think we should have it, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think we should have at least one meeting before the February 28th deadline so that we can work out the kinks.
I agree with that.
And that
We'll
would,
have our February meeting with the new equipment on site.
Yeah, that sounds good.
and that would be with the public attending remotely?
Yeah, they'll have the option.
Okay.
Yes, George.
Through the chair, I'd like to see us put a priority on public access to our meetings rather than convenience for us. So what accommodates that the most, I think, should dictate.
Yeah, and I think okay, so Tom Raleigh was at the Realtors presentation we did late last week. And first question, when are you going back to in-person meetings? And I said, Tom, our public participation is way over the top, and almost every public agency's public participation is way over the top since we've all learned how to do Zoom and Teams and what have you. It's been the best exercise in public participation that I think our state or our country has seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really meaningful, and that's because you don't have to drive up and wait on an agenda item. You can have it there kind of out of the corner of your eye, and if you miss it, you miss it, but you can go cook dinner if you just remember to turn your volume off at the right time. And I think it's been great for public participation. So I agree that it should be a priority. Obviously, the legislation that came out valued the public greater than the electeds. And we'll hold down the fort up here and let the public participate from home.
I agree.
And
Get your 4 shot.
okay. All right. Shall we aim to have our February meeting in person with the new technology?
Sounds
I
good.
agree. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right.
And I think, Joel, what I'm hearing from you is you've steered even more to a true hybrid model. So we'll just have to work on training and make sure that we can.
Right.
That's great.
Oh, yes. One question. Does the broadcasting on local television, does that continue?
Yes, it still continues.
Yep.
Okay. So that's available for people who just want to watch.
Right.
Also. Okay. Okay.
All right.
And all right. Any comments or questions about the informational items tonight? If not, we can adjourn. And is that game you're talking about, Mayor, still going?
We'll have to see, won't we? That's why we have a videotape.
Thank you
All right,
again
well,
to Stopwatch.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure
Good
working
night,
with all of
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Alvin, I
Right.
will
Stopwatch
attend meetings
live.
as a participant, as the public.
I appreciate it, Mayor.
Oh, I appreciate you guys. All right.
Recording
Thanks, bye.
stopped.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Happy
Thanks
Thanksgiving.
all.